Hey everyone, Tactics here, and in this video I'm going to be going over Mythic HALONDRUS in detail for raid leaders, for people that just looking to do a little bit of research beforehand, try and figure out things like their CD timings for healing CDs, offensive CDs, boss positioning, or I guess player positioning in HALONDRUS' case as he doesn't really move, things like how to set up the method raid tools note, weak auras that can help your raid, all those kind of things, bomb groupings for HALONDRUS. So hopefully this is useful to you guys. I'll be doing similar videos for, I know Anduin has been a big topic of discussion, especially with the nerf that just came in actually today. So I'll be doing a video for that. Should be out Monday. So make sure you guys like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when that gets posted. And let's start off here with just kind of the bare bones of the note. Now, realistically, you don't really need the note to cover this, but we put it in there just because this note is fairly sparse. All you need in this note really is this here, and it should be in this format. So this marker you want to use, and the 2 people, or this I believe does work for 3 people when used alongside this weak aura, assigned to said bomb. So we just use star, circle, diamond, triangle, moon, square. I believe you can use any of these. I don't think it actually matters too much. But this, in conjunction with the weak aura, I'm going to show you in a second here, lets you basically auto marks the people in this weak aura here when they pick up the bomb. You have to make sure everyone has assist. So if Magic Nugget picks up a bomb, he gets a star marker on his head. If I pick up a bomb, I get a triangle marker on my head. That's what this sets up for you. And so it gives you a little bit of, it makes it a little bit easier to see where bombs are going. We also have people in each bomb group find the raid marker. This raid marker, so they can put it on top of their bomb if they drop it on the ground. You can do that through MRT as well. Go to key bindings, method raid tools, and you can bind the markers here. All right. Let's look at the weak aura now. So here it is. I'll link this in the description below for you guys. But basically, it just has a big bar. Says when to drop it. Says who has it. Says when to pick it up, etc., etc. It feeds from this MRT note, like I said. And also, like I said, make sure everyone it has assist so that they can interact with marking people. Aside from that, there's not really a ton of mandatory weak auras. That's the big one. You want to make sure your bomb carriers and the backups have this add-on, or this weak aura rather. Really helpful. The other thing that's going to be helpful here is pictures that kind of show positioning. You guys saw a little bit with Lihavum, but I have a series of pictures here that I made with raidplan.io, great site, for each of the phases. So this one here just shows in P1 where the 3 bombs spawn. So assuming the bottom here is the entrance, that's our orientations. This is where you walk into the boss room. The purple bomb, of course, these colors don't really matter. This is just what we assign them. The purple bomb spawn there, the orange bomb there, the yellow bomb there. These 3 bombs will always spawn in these positions in P1. The other thing to note similarly, the Earthbreaker, the Earthcracker, I think is whatever it's called. The things that rotate around Planet Cracker beams. These things always spawn in the same spot in P1. They rotate in the same direction. In P2, they always spawn in the same spot. They rotate in the same direction. In P3, always same spot. They rotate in the same direction. These will one-shot you on Mythic. They absolutely annihilate you. They tick like 5 times per second, so that's what ends up killing you. So you need to be aware of them. Expect a few deaths from melee every time you go into a phase, but they should be able to pick it up pretty quickly because their spawns do not change. Their rotations do not change. It's always the same. So these are the 3 bond spawns in P1. There's 3 in P1, 3 in P2. This is our positioning chart for P1 and P2. So as you see, we are a very melee heavy raid. We have a ton of melee DPS here. This is actually not a problem anymore on the nerfed version of HALONDRUS. On the previous version of HALONDRUS, it was kind of sketchy to run with this many melee, but on the current version of HALONDRUS, it's actually not bad at all. You don't do many bomb swaps. It's actually not too hard to keep multiple bombs in melee. I believe we had 3 melee bombs in our group and 3 range bombs. And so this is our positioning, and it's mostly split into quadrants, right? So we kind of have 3 people here, 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 and here, each in charge of a quadrant of the boss, because of course, like, there's no things that usually come here. Usually they're all fixated around the corners of the room. Occasionally you get some towards the middle, But mostly like these 3 people are in charge of this quarter of the room, these 3 in charge of this quarter, these 3 in charge of this quarter, these 3 in charge of that quarter. That's how we've handled it, so that at all times, even when people are running out to get dispelled, unless you get absolutely horrendous RNG, there's always going to be someone in a quadrant to help bounce the moats. And that's Melee's #1 job here, is to make sure the moats get bounced and they don't touch the boss. That's the one thing Melee need to focus on throughout the fight, outside of whoever you're giving bombs to. And I would definitely recommend giving bombs to the people you trust the most. So in terms of the other, the ranged bomb carriers here, we always want to cluster them towards the exit of the room, positioning wise. We don't care about ranged bouncing moats. That's a melee job. We have so many melee anyways in our comp that we just said ranged don't even care about moats. And that's why they're all clustered up here, because the exit is here. And we want them to lead us. We want them to be way in front of us when the intermission starts. So then they can get through, they can do their bomb swaps without any interference. And then it's basically a safe transition. They can file into the room first, etc., etc. They're not in the way for Earthbreaker missiles, all that kind of thing. So that's why we're all clustered up here. And then for the intermission itself, we kind of have tracks. So basically like an invisible line down the side. That's where the purple group always goes. Down the middle, the orange group always goes. Down the right, the yellow group always goes. By trying to get people to repeat exactly what they do every time in these intermissions, you will get them way more specifically the bomb groups. It's less of a problem, you know, if these other people are doing weird things. Obviously, you prefer them not to because there's not too much space. With this many melee, it's a bit of a dance to get people to spread out for the Earthbreaker missiles and then back in under the boss. So ideally, everyone in the intermission is doing the same thing, and this kind of reinforces that, where the bomb groups are always in the same general area, so hopefully they're doing the same thing, if it works, obviously. If something doesn't work, then they should change it up, but if something is working, they should always be doing it just for consistency. And you only need to do one swap during this intermission now, post the nerfs, and I'll show that, of course, in the walkthrough video I have afterwards. P2, so these are the bomb spawns in P2. Blue bomb there, moon bomb there, and a green bomb there. And these are our positionings in P2. So again, range is clustered around the exit of the room because the exit is now over here, again, assuming we come from the bottom of this picture. DPS or melee rather are still clustered all around the boss, 3 people per corner. As you can see here, we now have 3 sets of melee bombs. Tanks have a bomb. Note that tanks can now not only carry a bomb, they can actually solo a bomb. Now the big thing is making sure that your debuff goes down and ticks below 30 before you pick up a bomb. Assuming you're holding the bomb for the full duration. That means you will only ever have 1 stack, and tanks have no issues really surviving the additional ticking damage. You may want to pop a personal when you just pick up the bomb for the first time, when you take that big hit of initial damage, but even then, like you're still pretty comfy as a tank. And because none of those, like the tank beam no longer triggers the bomb, you're pretty comfy to actually hard carry intermission bombs. And we've done that. We did that during progress, where, you know, someone would die, a tank would pick it up, and the other tank would solo their bomb, and basically tanks would just be able to have a pretty big impact in these intermissions given the current changes. So keep that in mind, tanks. You can solo carry a bomb just fine, especially through this intermission here. I'll also show some positioning on how you can take advantage of this bomb stuff in the video as well. So we move through, and the same deal in this second intermission. Lanes. We have these lanes, and we try and keep to these as much as possible, just to keep things consistent, to keep things relatively organized. And again, this is the phase where those world marker binds are really useful. If you ever get a little bit mixed up, right? Maybe yellow walks this down a little bit. They put a yellow marker on their bomb. They know where they have to. They know which bomb is theirs, which one they need to pick up, etc. All that stuff. So having world markers bound. The people who are doing bomb carrying, very, very valuable, especially in this intermission specifically. Then we move into the last phase. We got the smiley beams of death. Of course, pre-nerf or post-nerf rather, there's just 2 beams that cut this room in half, essentially. You can have all of your range, again, near the entrance this time. There's no exit, so they just kind of come in and chill there at the entrance for minimal movement. They'll spread out along here, and they can be out of range of these beams. And then you just basically split your raid in half with a couple bombs on each side. And that's how you handle this. You just rotate around with the beams here. And Melee's job here is just to kick as many motes as possible. This is a great spot for things like, Cloak of Shadows, Netherwalk, Bubble, just eating a bunch of motes. Another thing I've seen groups do is using like Turtle or Paladin Bubble to kind of reset all the bombs timers. Like you can drop them all here and then just have one immunity class run through them all and reset all their timers. And then you could have another immunity class run through them all and reset all their timers, basically giving you a free minute of time where you never have to worry about bombs. Very interesting. Not necessary, of course, but something you can think about doing. This boss actually died just outside of the Bloodlust, I believe. And I think we had someone dead, maybe 2 people dead. So I think this boss 100% could have died just in the Bloodlust in this phase. So it doesn't have a ton of health. And especially if that's something you're not really comfortable with, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But now let's actually walk through our first kill of this boss here. So as you can see here, bombs are spawning in those spots. They always spawn in these spots. Planet Cracker beams always spawning in these spots. You see I back up. The boss has a pretty large hitbox, so you can walk right around that. Tanks here, big thing for tanks. All the motes have shields. You have to hit every single mote. The big thing though, in both phases, you only ever have to hit the first 4 motes because you should never get a reclaim post nerfs. Reclaims just don't happen, and so you just need to hit these ones, and the next spawn of motes, these ones right here, they will never actually reach the boss before you transition it. So you never actually need to hit these. So at this point, you can just kind of keep the light shatter beams still and not really worry about them. You don't really need to worry about hitting anything, right? Like I'm pretty sure it's just chilling back here, but it doesn't matter. Boss transitions at 78% here, so like these motes aren't even going to get close enough to do any actual damage to the boss. And as soon as relocation form starts, these motes are fake. You don't need to touch them anymore. And then we're getting into the actual phase itself, only a minute into the fight, of course, because you're skipping that first reclaim. And the key here is you see the bomb groups are ahead. They're ahead. They're running ahead. And they have a lock gate here, personal lock gate, and they're going, and we're spreading out away from the boss so that the safe spot for melee is directly under the boss, so they have good boss uptime there. We have a big use of speed here. That's the other thing you need to keep in mind. Speed totems and roars, very, very valuable. So you see here we have our speed totem under the boss. Melee can dip into it, get the speed boost, and then you're going to see here I'm roaring after this. We have someone roaring the front here already. The Boomkin's roaring the front. I roar the back, and we all run through. You want to make sure that you're getting past this here. And of course, no one wants to be in it. And then you can use things like charge or other displacements to come right back to the boss. Running through, and we've got a spread here for these missiles. There's always 2 missiles in this phase. And again, ideally, you're always going to the same spots if you can help it. As consistent as you can get this phase to be, the more consistent you can get it, rather, the easier it will be to progress through this, and just the more deeper pulls you will get. Now we're transitioning here into the second phase. The new bombs will spawn in a second here. Moon, triangle, and square over there. This is the tank bomb here. And again, same deal as in P1. You need to hit these first 4 motes as a tank, and you don't care about the others. Not really a big deal at all. And as you can see, right, the big thing here, you see all those guys backing up. Melee, the best thing you can do for these missiles is to back up off the boss so that you can then run up to the boss afterwards and keep hitting it. That is the best way that we found to handle it, especially because, again, we were so melee heavy. We found that we would completely run out of space if melee were crowding the boss. So we tried to get around that as best we could. Picking up that bomb late there, again, it's a 30-second timer. You don't need to pick it up right away. And then we're going to see Intermission 2, which is probably, getting through Intermission 2 is probably the hardest part of this fight, because of course you have 6 sets of bombs, a heavy movement, pretty substantial damage coming out. So that's probably going to be the hardest part of most of this progression for you guys. And coming up to it soon, again, we didn't care about that. Dropping the bomb, marking it. Very, very beneficial. Look, like a few of these are marked, a few of them don't need to be marked because they're right in front of it. But now they know exactly where they want to be. And basically, we're going to speed here. People have speed. And it's going to be a very similar thing where this speed's coming through and I'll go in and I speed the back. And we run through, because again, you want to be pretty quick, because look, that's the line of death right there. We were just a little bit in front of it. And we want to book it as far as we can here. You see like the other mines, look how far ahead they are, right? That's the thing. You want to create as much distance as you can so you're able to still pick this up safely while also making sure you're out of range of this bomb here, or this line rather here. You also still have to get ahead of these shatters, and this is probably the spooky overlap here because it's this shatter here into debuffs, into missiles, and it can get a little spooky if you don't spread out enough. You see, I just walk right through that slow puddle there. Probably one of the better places to be, and it doesn't cut anybody else off. Again, marking bombs. Accidentally run through someone else's bomb because I'm good. And we get to this last phase, and after that knockback is this, we all regroup and we bloodlust here. And this is where we pop all CDs just after 4 minutes. And that's the thing to note too. This is probably the time you would expect to get here consistently, is between 4 and 4.5 minutes. And so things like Sigil, not so great for this, right? You'd want to either, you'd want to hold it until Bloodlust here, to be honest with you. The whole fight, pots, hold until Bloodlust. All CDs, obviously the 2-minute classes, you would want to hold your CDs for the 25 seconds here and make sure you use them. You want everything in this Bloodlust. You want this boss to be as dead as possible. You want this phase to be as short as possible. That's the goal here. And so you see we'll split half and half. People are splitting into their sides. Ranged are backing up here, and they can get out of range of this line entirely. Tanks have their bombs that we're juggling here. And we're just rotating around, and we're just eating moats now. Same deal. It's exactly the same as before. We try and keep these as still as possible so as we're not strafing people. So you want to make sure you have enough room at the front. That's why tanks are positioned at the front right against this beam, so that we make sure we have enough room so that we can stand stationary when we have the beam and people are able to dodge. Some groups rotate with the same speed as this beam. I think we found that stationary was better for people to avoid and not get hit by. So here, just eat the orbs. Like, doesn't matter what your uptime is in this phase. You want to back up. You want to eat as many orbs as possible. Push them as far back, especially if you're near the edge here. If you're near the back, because of course the tanks are near the front, so we just bonk it a bunch. And we're tanks, so we bonk it a fair bit. But if you're near the back here, you want to make sure you're maybe like double tapping this one, because if it's passing through this beam, obviously only immunities can possibly soak that. So you want to make sure it's never going to be near to touching the boss inside one of the Planet Cracker beams. Otherwise, though, that is pretty much this boss. So hopefully, guys, this video helped you out a bit. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to drop a comment down below or come stop by my Twitch channel at Tactics, and I'll do my best to answer. Like I mentioned, Mythic Anduin video will be coming out hopefully Monday this week, so keep an eye out for that. And of course, I'll do the other boss as well. We'll see about Lords of Dread. That fight, it seems to be pretty simple, especially it seems more like the heroic fight a little bit, but I'll probably do a short video on that as well. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.